Sheriff Dale Connors would later say a church basement can swallow the right minute and leave nothing else. But on the folding table at St. Luke's Fellowship Hall, a styrofoam cup with a coral lipstick rim and a sugary ring in lemonade still spoke under the humming fluorescence. November 7th, 1987. Elkins, Randolph County, West Virginia. Until DNA finally broke the silence and gave investigators a name to chase. Block 1. Route and initial scene. Route and clock, logged by Sheriff Connors. Lori Ann Beasley, 30, receptionist at a tire shop, left the harvest supper cleanup at about 8:12 p.m. with a to-go lemonade cup in her hand and a foil-wrapped slice of pie in her purse. The walk home ran about 7 to 9 minutes along Dayton Street. A neighbor's porch light showed in her window about 8:22. A sister later said Lori answered the phone about 8:31, winded but cheerful, and signed off to wash up and set out clothes for church. By about 9:05, a downstairs tenant heard retching and water running. 9:37 brought a 911 call for a sudden sickness. Connors boxed about 8:10 to 8:25 p.m. at the hall as the minute scale window for anything that altered the night. Fellowship Hall tableau. He noted, photographed, mapped. In the church basement, the long tables still smelled of coffee and Clorox. On the serving line sat a half-empty cooler of lemonade, paper plates stacked, and, by the end cap, one styrofoam cup with a coral lipstick arc and a shallow sugar crust at the rim. The cup was not collapsed. Its ice had only half melted, fitting the minutes. A plastic ladle lay across the cooler mouth. A drip run on the lid had dried to a tacky shine. Volunteers remembered Lori laughing at a joke, lifting the cup, making a face at the taste, sweeter than usual, then shrugging it off and slipping out with her pie. No spilled food, no commotion, no raised voices, just the quiet end of a church supper. Perimeter artifacts, he inventoried. Kitchen sink, 2 clean pitchers draining, 1 used ladle with a faint citrus film. Trash barrel, ordinary cups crushed, 1 uncrushed cup set aside on the edge, bagged. On the bulletin board, sign-up sheets, a phone tree card Lori had initialed at 7:56 p.m. Custodian's closet, nothing disturbed. Outside on the steps, no scuffle, no dropped purse, footprints ordinary for a damp November evening. Found and not found, scene density. Found, physical. To-go cup with coral lipstick rim and residual lemonade. Ladle with citrus film. Cooler half empty. Foil pie wrap later recovered from Lori's purse at the ER. Found, context. About 8:12, Lori departs. About 8:22, neighbor's porch light glimpse. About 8:31, brief phone call home. About 9:05, illness onset. 9:37, EMS. Not found. No forced entry, no confrontation, no theft, no street-level shout. Nothing to support accident or assault in the hall. Witness pulse. He interviewed, timed, logged. 3 volunteers closing the kitchen recalled Lori's taste comment, and no one crowding her at the urns. A deacon saw 2 women talking by the bulletin board about 8:05 to 8:10. Acquaintances, not close friends, then peeling to separate doors. The custodian remembered a young woman with a red stripe soft pack tucked in a shirt pocket, stepping out to the side stoop about 8:08, returning as the line thinned. Names were noted, minutes fixed to kitchen clock and the hall's click timer buzz. Medical snapshot, what the era could see. At the ER, Lori arrived about 9:51. Nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and rapidly worsening acidosis. Serum showed a high anion/osmolar gap. Staff chalked it to alcohol plus flu on a busy Saturday. No tox screen for ethylene glycol, common antifreeze. Sweet, odorless, lethal in milliliters. Classic kidney injury via calcium oxalate crystals. Not in 1987 at a small hospital without gas chromatography on call. Connors wrote it bluntly in his margin. If poison, the minute lived in a cup, not a fight. Immediate response. He locked the core. Connors sealed the lipstick-rimmed cup in paper, bagged the ladle and swabbed the cooler lip, photographed the serving line and clock, pulled names and minute marks from volunteers. and logged the ER times against the church minutes. Chain of custody ran clean to the evidence room. Working window, minutes, not hours. From about 8:10, last pour at the line, to about 8:25, Lori in view on Dayton Street, sits the operational band. Enough time to dose a cup, lift and sip, and leave without stirring a basement full of neighbors. A styrofoam cup with a coral lipstick rim and lemonade too sweet under humming lights. Small pieces saying the turn happened downstairs. Connors drew a red bracket around 15 minutes. The bell at St. Luke's rang Sunday service on time, and an empty pew kept Lori's place. Block 2. Assumptions versus evidence. Foodborne upset from the church supper. What we would expect. Multiple attendees ill, leftovers implicated, kitchen staff sick, or a dish common to all. What we have. No other illnesses reported. Volunteers ate the same fare, and the only off note was Lori's too sweet lemonade. A single patient event among dozens does not read as a potluck outbreak. Bad water ice in the cooler. What we would expect. Anyone drinking from the cooler becomes symptomatic. The ladle and cooler would be the common source. What we have. The cooler was half empty and widely used without other complaints. The plastic ladle carried only a light citrus film. Nothing suggests a barrel-wide issue. Illness tied to one cup fits better than a contaminated urn. Alcohol or self-dosing. What we would expect. Odor of spirits, a history from home, empty containers, or a known pattern. What we have. Family denied drinking. Volunteers noted no smell, and hospital labs recorded a high anion/osmolar gap without a clear ethanol story. In 1987, the local ER did not screen for toxic alcohols routinely. The gap is consistent with that class, but not explained by self-use. Medication mix, allergy, or flu. What we would expect. Pills or a change in prescriptions. Hives, airway issues, or ill contacts. What we have. No new meds documented. GI onset within an hour after the haul, and no allergy phenotype observed by EMS. Flu does not rise and crash on a single cup. Random prank sugar dump. What we would expect. A ladleful of extra sugar alters every cup. Several drinkers remark on taste. What we have. Only Lori commented, sweeter than usual, and the coral lipstick cup with sugar crust sat apart, uncrushed, with ice only half melted. A cup-specific story, not a barrel prank. Cross-contamination at the line. What we would expect. Residue on ladle and cooler lip sufficient to dose anyone. Drip runs across service surfaces. What we have. Ladle showed a routine citrus film. Cooler lip had a single, tacky drip run. Background for a church kitchen, not a line-wide exposure. The to-go cup remains the singular vector. Cup-specific dosing. Testers as a hypothesis, not a conclusion. What we would expect. A minute when the line thinned. A person with quiet access to a single cup, and a directed motive. What we have. Witnesses fixed about 8:05 to 8:10 to two women at the bulletin board. Then about 8:08, a red-striped soft-pack smoker using the side stoop, returning as the line thinned. One lipsticked cup retained with residual lemonade. Illness within an hour. The medical gap profile fits a toxic alcohol, e.g., a sweet, nearly odorless antifreeze used domestically in the era, without naming a line-wide source. It remains an evidence-driven hypothesis, not a verdict. False lead, decisive fact. The easy reads are bad batch or she wasn't well. The decisive fact is singularity. One lipsticked cup, one taste complaint, no co-illness, and symptom onset within the lemonade window. The scene accepts a cup. It rejects a kitchen. Era limits. Connors underlined the gaps. No cameras in the fellowship hall. No synced digital time. Phones left dimes, not records. The hospital did not run gas chromatography for toxic alcohols on Saturday nights. Clock drift of about 2 to 3 minutes across sources was normal. Minutes, not metadata, carry the case. Provisional read, present versus absent. Foodborne potluck, not supported. No co-cases. Cooler ice-wide contamination, not supported. Many drank, one sick. Alcohol self, weak. Labs show gap without ethanol story. Allergy flu, weak. Timing and phenotype misfit. Cup-specific dosing at the end of the line, best fit to the lipstick cup. Too sweet remark, solo illness, and minute scale hall window. Working window, minutes, not hours. Connors bracketed about 8:10 to 8:25 p.m. as the lifespan. Dose a cup, lift and sip, leave. All without disturbing a basement full of neighbors. A styrofoam cup with a coral lipstick rim and sugar crust that did not belong to the cooler. And a hallway minute no one heard. The sheriff inked 15 minutes on a page. Sunday bells rang on time. And in a small kitchen, a plate of pie sat untouched beside a sink set for morning. Block 3. From case file to cold case. Community canvas. Connors interviewed, mapped, and logged. That night and Sunday morning, the sheriff worked the fellowship list and the phone tree card Lori had initialed 7:56 p.m. Deacons, choir, kitchen volunteers. No co-illness, no quarrel on the floor. 2 women, acquaintances, not friends, were seen about 8:05 to 8:10 at the bulletin board and peeled to separate doors. A custodian marked a red stripe soft pack smoker from the side stoop about 8:08, then back through the kitchen as the line thinned. No one recalled a raised voice, scrape, or spill. Connors pinned the hall's click timer buzz and kitchen clock to settle drift. The minute band at the end of the line was real. A brawl was not. What the file actually preserved, photographed, bagged, sealed. Styrofoam to-go cup with coral lipstick rim and residual lemonade, air-dried, paper-bagged with desiccant, sealed. Plastic ladle with citrus film, paper-wrapped, sealed. Cooler lip swab, background control, sealed. Trash barrel edge cup, uncrushed, separate paper bag. Foil pie wrap recovered at ER from Lori's purse, paper. Kitchen clock/timer photographs and service line layout. Property log shows paper packaging, dated signature seals in Connor's hand, and evidence room placements without gap. Medical file. What the era could and could not see. EMS charted acute nausea vomiting within an hour of departure. ER labs logged high anion osmolar gap and metabolic acidosis. No routine toxic alcohol screen was available on a Saturday night in 1987. GC was not on call. Autopsy authorization gave undetermined sudden illness, with small-town constraints, limited tox panels, histology archived, slides retained. No contemporaneous report naming ethylene glycol, though the timing after a sweet drink survived in the notes. Why it cooled, limits Connors wrote in the margin. No fixed cameras in a church basement. No synced digital time. Phones left dimes, not records. The lemonade urn was communal and widely used without co-illness. The vector looked like one cup, but no culprit utensil or bottle surfaced. The small hospital could not confirm toxic alcohol. Without a named agent and co-case, probable cause turned on hearsay of jealousy and a minute no one saw. Connors's line, evidence clean, technique poor by our time. Leads beyond the hall. What was done, what stayed thin. He checked hardware auto counters for antifreeze sales, but winter stock was cash and common. He re-interviewed the 2 women from the board. Both gave routine evenings and parted minutes before Lori's last pour. Neighbors on Dayton Street confirmed about 8:22 in the window, about 9:05 the retching, 9:37 the call. No porch dogs barked, no window thrown, no curb car paws remembered. Paper and custody, how it waited. The lipstick, cup, ladle, swab, and trash edge cup sat in paper with desiccant on shelf B2. Index typed and updated at annual reviews. No destructive testing was ordered later. The autopsy slides and blocks remained at the ME's archive. The hospital retained summary labs. 30-plus years on, the box stayed viable not because the case was simple, but because the packaging was right. Working window. Minutes, not hours. The spine of the file held about 8:10 to 8:25 p.m. A narrow slice in which a person could dose 1 cup, let ice carry flavor, and leave without stirring the room. A paper bag labeled styro, cup, lipstick, lemonade, 11th of July, 1987. A ladle wrapped in brown craft, and timer, photos fixing the last quiet minutes under fluorescent hum. Paper seals held in a steel cabinet while potlucks came and went. Sunday bells kept time, and a pew stayed empty across many Novembers with no name to set beside it. Block 4. Technicals and breakthrough. Why the state came. Paper reason, not drama. In 2023, the Attorney General's cold case triage flagged the Beasley file as genealogically viable. Paper-bagged items with dated seals, minimal handler history, and autopsy blocks retained. Upon the county's request for technical assistance under the state MOU, Special Agent Lauren Pike, State Bureau of Investigation Cold Case Unit, signed out Sheriff Connors' sealed box and entered it into the state lab audit. Reopen kit, Pike's packets, analyst's gloves. Unsealed one by one, the lipstick-rimmed styrofoam cup, exterior wall and base for touch, interior dried residue for documentation. The trash edge cup, uncrushed control. The plastic ladle, handle and bowl. The cooler lip swab, background. And from the ME archive, kidney paraffin blocks and slides. Fresh gloves per item. Tool changes between lifts. Bench and forceps pre and post swabs logged. When the envelopes opened, the filters still carried a faint, acrid tang of stale smoke from the hall's side stoop bags. The ladles bag held the expected citrus note. Low template attempts, where the old playbook stalled. qPCR read sub-nanogram on the cup exterior wall and ladle handle. Mini STR on those sites returned stutter-prone partials, non-reportable alone. VMD on the ladle handle showed faint ridge flow as if sweat, not force, pressed the surface. Controls remained clean. The stall was power, not process. Tox reread. Modern view of the 1987 illness. The ME's kidney slides, re-examined under polarized light, showed calcium oxalate crystals in distal tubules, classic for ethylene glycol poisoning. No serum remained for GCMS, but the histology plus the hour-scale onset after a sweet drink supported the toxic alcohol pathway that the small hospital could not name in 1987. SNP turn, signal enough to map. Analysts composited touch lifts from the cup exterior wall and the ladle handle and built a low-input SNP library. Fragment length centered about 120 to 150 base pairs. Post-QC call rate about 92 to 94%. Mixture assessment supported a single-source female, distinct from Lori Beasley and all eliminations, family, kitchen volunteers, custodian, responding EMTs. Bench blanks and reagent controls were negative. One analyst noted in the margin, the library stitched fragments like torn paper into a usable tree. FGG guardrails, lead, not proof. Upload limited to opt-in law enforcement portals with a full audit packet. Hashes, timestamps, named access. No non-consenting databases. Every view and export logged. Pike's header echoed Connors' note. Notes point, proof compares. Microtrace. Class traits that bent the story, not conclusions. Cup exterior. Sparse foundation pigment micelles consistent with a drugstore coral shade on fingers after blotting. Class only. Ladle handle. Trace glycerol and citrate. Kitchen background. And a minute mineral oil film with faint graphite. A profile more at home on tool handles than on serving gear. Trash edge cup. No foreign profile beyond background. Individually non-unique. Together they lived where a single cup and a single handling moment live, not a barrel-wide exposure. Tree build and minute filter. Pike's map expanded. Second and third cousin matches converged on a northern Appalachia line with anchors in Randolph-Tucker counties in the 1960s to 1990s. Public records scaffolded the MRCA. Age-sex gates narrowed to women mid-20s to mid-40s in 1987 who were present at St. Luke's. A geography time filter trimmed further. proximity to the bulletin board and side stoop in the about 805 to 812 thinning line band, and rolls that plausibly touch cups after pour, cleanup helper, chat at the end cap, without running the kitchen. The working set naturally included an acquaintance of Lori who was not a close friend. Shortlist: no more than 3. Working, not conclusive. The pedigree plus minute gates yielded a shortlist led by Marcia Ellison, then 31, a drugstore clerk noted by 2 witnesses near the bulletin board about 805 to 810, seen using the side stoop with a red stripe soft pack and returning as the line thinned. 2 controls rounded the set: a choir alto and a kitchen volunteer whose minute marks fell outside the cup band. Pike marked all 3 as working names, not conclusion. Cross-checks against innocent transfer. The foreign female profile repeated across independent lifts, cup exterior, and ladle handle. All eliminations were negative. Chain of custody remained continuous from Connors's paper to Pike's audit. The hall logic still split kitchen from cup. No co-illness. 1 lipsticked cup. 1 too sweet comment. Onset inside an hour. Upstairs, Lori's flat read, return expected. Class traits, tool film trace, pigment micelles, were small, but they lived at hand use points for a single cup. Working window, application, minutes, not hours. Pike kept Connors's band about 8:10 to 8:25 p.m. Surveillance would target the shortlist for lawful discard: paper cup, cigarette filter, bottle, suitable for STR confirmation. If matched, a court-authorized buckle would follow, a kidney slide glittering with oxalate under polarized light, and a cup ladle SNP profile that finally gave the file a branch to climb. Pike boxed the minutes in red on the worksheet. For decades, the file's box stayed silent while Sunday bells kept time, until the profile spoke. Block 5. Resolution and arrest lead to proof. Pike's plan executed. FGG stayed a lead. Pike ran quiet surveillance keyed to the about 8:10 to 8:25 p.m. Fellowship Hall window and Marcia Ellison's current routines. One morning, outside a grocery on Harrison Avenue, Ellison finished a small coffee and dropped a paper cup into a public bin. Pike logged the lawful discard. The cup rim showed a faint yellowed edge from long draws. The lab built a STR profile from the rim and compared it to the SNP-guided foreign profile recovered from the cup exterior wall and ladle handle. The comparison supported common source. With counsel review, Pike obtained a court-authorized confirmatory buccal swab. The second test reproduced the profile without mixture flags. Match statistics, plain language. The confirmatory report returned RMP less than 1 × 10 to the power of 12 and LR greater than 10 to the power of 9 in favor of the same individual as the foreign contributor. The analyst's sheet carried no caution marks, a clean black line from rim to file. Bench negatives and reagent blanks were clean. All eliminations, family, kitchen volunteers, custodian, first responders, remained non-matching. Corroboration. Minutes, not hours. Pike emphasized a minute-scale opportunity. About 15 minutes at the end of the line to dose 1 cup, let ice carry flavor, and leave without disturbing a church basement. The hall logic never shifted. No co-illness. 1 lipsticked cup. 1 too sweet remark. Onset inside an hour. Class traits lived where a single handling moment lives. Foundation pigment micelles consistent with a coral shade on fingers after blotting on the cup exterior. A light mineral oil with faint graphite on the ladle handle that reads more like tool handle carry than kitchen film. The kidney slides reread under polarized light showed calcium oxalate crystals. The tox footprint of ethylene glycol consistent with a sweet, nearly odorless antifreeze used domestically in that era. Upstairs, home context held. Return expected. Wallet undisturbed. Routine set. Witness minutes fixed Ellison at the bulletin board about 8:05 to 8:10, using the side stoop in the same band, then back as the line thinned. The pieces pointed to cup-specific dosing in minutes, not a barrel prank. Investigators note, motive, and context. Investigators recorded prior petty frictions between the acquaintance women and remarks about Lori's new boyfriend from the week before. In a recorded post-Miranda interview, Marcia Ellison stated she added a small amount of antifreeze to Lori's cup to make her sick, saying she was tired of being compared and lost her temper. She claimed she didn't intend death. The statement was documented. Motive is reflected as her own words, not assumed. Arrest. Pike led the contact. At 6:17 a.m. in a grocery parking lot, Pike and two agents approached as Ellison stepped from her car. She glanced once toward the curb, breath visible in the cool air, then set the coffee cup down without a word. Pike identified, stated the warrant, and noted immediate compliance. Vehicle and outer garments were in plain view. Any interior search proceeded under separate authority. Charging framework. Pike's memo. Identification. STR from lawful discard, replicated by court-authorized buckle, reported with conservative statistics. Access and opportunity. Presence inside about 8:10 to 8:25 p.m. at St. Luke's. The minimal band needed for a short, quiet, cup-specific dosing. Corroboration. Scene logic. No co-illness. 1 cup. Tox crystals. Class traits. Pigment micelles on cup. Tool film trace on ladle. Witness minutes. Bulletin board / side stoop. Upstream home context. Return expected. Negative eliminations. Continuous chain of custody from Connors's paper to Pike's audit. Pike underlined. FGG pointed. Proof came from discard STR buckle. Technical closeout. What was tested? Why sufficient? Tested. Cup exterior wall and ladle handle. Primary touch DNA. Trash edge cup. Control. Cooler lip swab. Background. Kidney paraffin blocks and slides. Histology. Plus discard cup and confirmatory buckle. qPCR guided low input handling. STR confirmation met reporting thresholds. Mixture assessment indicated a single source female distinct from Lori. All controls were negative. Sufficiency rested on independent replication, the minute scale time distance fit, and non-overlapping controls that closed off innocent transfer and kitchen-wide contamination. A kidney slide glittering with oxalate, a coral-rimmed cup that kept its touch, and a clean line from rim to file with the same name. Minutes inked in red closed the line in 2023. Decades of Sunday bells had kept time without her, until DNA finally wrote the name back.